Today I'm going to talk about some recent legislation that took effect. It was originally passed in 2009 by the General Assembly. It affects Virginia manufacturers and those companies that are manufacturing in Virginia that may not be based in Virginia. Those companies that are multi-state companies are used to, for the most part, having to allocate and apportion their income across the states. And typically there's a factor, a three-pronged factor that's utilized: a sales factor, a property factor, and a payroll factor. And some percentage of those three is generally used to determine how much of that company's income should be apportioned and taxed in that state. Virginia has decided to allow manufacturers to elect, starting July 1st of this year, to weigh the sales factor or increase the sales factor to a 3 times multiple or a 3 multiple versus the current or previous double apportionment method. For the next 2 years, that 3 times weighted method or triple weighted method will be in effect. Starting in 2013 of July, there will be a quadruple factor, and then after 2014, there will be a 100% sales factor. And so this is an election. Companies can choose to use the old method, the old apportionment method, or they can go to 100% sales method afterwards. As you can imagine, some companies, because it's a mechanical equation, some companies are going to benefit. They're going to have less income allocated to Virginia and subject to Virginia tax, and some manufacturers are going to have more. Those who have a greater percentage of Virginia sales to total sales, if they elect to use the triple and quadruple or eventually single sales factor, they're going to have a larger portion of their income allocated to Virginia and thus subject to Virginia tax, and just the opposite. So it's something that's going to be available for companies to look at and consider which method the manufacturer would like to utilize. It's also one of those that once it's elected, you're pretty much locked into it. Currently, this is the climate that we're in of many states looking to move to the single sales factor. It makes it much easier to allocate income to states and various jurisdictions. So I think the legislative intent by all the states to do this is to simplify these complicated calculations. But by simplifying it, there's also there's the opportunity to have a little bit more exposure to one jurisdiction versus another. So it's certainly something that you should consider, whether you want to move towards the single sales factor or not. Currently, there are 5 states that have single sales factor. I believe Georgia was the last one, maybe New York to put one in place. And California has one, but it's not mandatory. So Virginia is similar to California in not having a mandatory single sales factor. But I think you will continue to see many of the states, I think there's 33 or so, that have these apportionment factors in place. Many of them will start moving towards the single sales factor for simplicity and being able to attract business because they have a perceived reduced red tape and compliance burden on these companies.